one thing is most important is that if more than one person is telling you that you have a problem, consider it. Even if you can't say it to them verbally and admit, I think you might be right. Take it. People aren't saying it for no reason, because I think that was something for me that was a difficult thing to do. And then also you're more empowered than you think you are. Ooh. And you just have to reevaluate your goals.
What awareness or what wake-up call do you think we need to have when it comes to this particular drug?
Just, I think more information for the public, because stigma comes from lack of information and fear. It's fear-based. So I think just having more information to the public about fentanyl, making it more known that people on the streets that are struggling with this, regardless if it's fentanyl or addiction or not, that they are humans, that they're just really struggling.
I think I reached a point where my priorities really started to shift, where once my priorities were sort of wrapped up in my addiction and in the lifestyle and what that brought with it, where I realized that those were not my priorities anymore. Those were not things that inspired me anymore. Those were not, I looked around in my surroundings and just realized, that there was something different. And
was it like a light bulb moment or like an epiphany, Cameron, or was it something that over time you kind of came to?
No, it was a process.
Okay.
It was a process. It was a process of living and growing as an individual and sort of, maybe gaining some clarity. I think certainly, the absence of, hard drug abuse on a regular basis allows for some clarity. And I think that that's, one of the most important things that an individual can gift themselves, especially if they're in the throes of addiction.
If you're not working on your recovery, you're working on your relapse. So that means my mental health, my soul care, my self-care, my,
yes.
all of the things are something that won't stop for the rest of my life. Otherwise, addiction is sitting right here waiting for me to say, you're okay, you got it. And it's like they would say in AA, when I would go to AA meetings, that alcoholism is doing push-ups in the parking lot while you're in here. So don't ever get it twisted like you're okay, you've made it, you've arrived. Every day I got to remind myself, if alcohol touches these lips, if I get emotionally unhealthy, I could be tempted to drink.
Nobody really knew that it was alcohol. And then, I got honest about it finally with my parents. And that was the first of, 10 treatment facilities that I had been through. So first, that was really how it kind of giving you the arc of everything. But kind of started, like she said, started with pain, ended with pain. But very much a medication to me, and that's why it was so hard, and to be ingrained at such a young age that this is the answer, that cortical mapping that happens so young, it's very hard to break that.
Well, I think the biggest benefit for me is I was existing and enduring and trying to master and trying to gain control. It was exhausting and defeating. Like, that was my existence before I got sober. And it was, I'm using that word again, it was just an existence. I was not really living. My first year of recovery was excruciating. I did not like getting sober at all. I did not have that glow that other people had. I resented everybody. I absolutely only saw the differences. And, what I discovered later was that, I got to show up for people and not just take pills and drink enough to show up so that I could get out of there. that kind of mindset's a little bit like having like low grade diarrhea. Like that's all I could think about was how long do I have to talk to this person until I can get out and feel and get well again, you know?
It was a dream come true for me to be on RuPaul's Drag Race. A dream come true for me to have a show around small community queer living incorporated with drag, where I got to co-host alongside two of my favorite drag queens of all time on RuPaul's Drag Race on the movie channel, which is what my mama would call it. The HBO was always, girl, we can't afford the movie channels. You know what I'm saying? So those were dreams coming true. So like, was I gonna destroy that? Was I gonna allow myself to destroy myself? And there's a moment where I think you like get in your headspace and you're like, you know what? I can either continue being afraid of the rest of the world and fight only in here and be too prideful to admit that I need help, you know, be too afraid that, like, it's weird because like I was so scared that if someone found out that I wasn't perfect, that I was going to lose everything. That's real. But what was going to make me lose everything?
That's deep. That's deep.
Right. What was going to make me lose everything was pretending like I was perfect when everything was wrong in my head.
Where I was always going to be like missing the thing that I really wanted to be doing, and I was always going to have this sort of emptiness in me. And now I know that that's not the case at all. Like being sober, I really feel like I get to be on the winning team. You know, I have this incredible community around me, this amazing support system, these incredible friends. You know, the 12-step program has been such a huge thing for me, and I'm so grateful for it. And you know, I think that's the thing that having this disease, even though it's really hard, it also gives us this community, and it also gives us these tools that helps us to kind of navigate not just our sobriety journey, but also our like life journey. And that's something that I'm very grateful for.
It shifted when I saw the true nature of my disease from a sober state. So I always, you know, in treatment, I was taught like, you know, go to meetings, don't drink or use no matter what, hold on to your seat, like, play the tape back, like all of these slogans that can be very useful and helpful, but it was all about using and not using. And I think a lot of people misunderstand powerlessness and what unmanageability looks like in their life. And I believe that they think, oh, I took a drink of this and then I did some stupid stuff, right? But that's not the case. My mind started trying to self-soothe because my emotions are unmanageable. Like I'm unmanageable on the inside. Like I'm dying, literally dying. Like it feels like an atomic bomb going off inside of my body, where all I can do is think of things outside of me that's going to put out this fire, right?
Curious, have you had the same sponsor during this whole time?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like one of the best people in the world. I think he sponsors like 30 guys. Like he's an incredible human being. You know, he has a life
too.
Really
highly recommend having a sponsor or having, in addition to meetings, but having that an anchor.
Yes,
to kind of
absolutely.
keep you accountable.
Absolutely, you got to have a sponsor, and if it doesn't work out with you and your sponsor, personality things, that happens sometimes. I think early on I had a couple things like that. You could fire your sponsor, because you have to remember something is you're grateful to your sponsor, but you're doing him a favor because he gets to be of service to you. And the best sponsors will say, do this, call me. You know, staying in touch is the key. And I can always tell when people are having issues because they don't call me back. They don't check in. They don't. And I think that's a super important thing to do.
So the goal of my research is to understand how circuits in the brain, how connections in the brain are modified following alcohol intoxication. So they're modified. What's really, really striking about addiction, I often like to think of it as a memory disorder. What we see in individuals who suffer from alcohol use disorder is the circuits in their brain are disrupted, but particularly memory circuits are disrupted. And as a consequence, what we see are enduring preferences for their drugs of choice. We see habitual behaviors, and we see cravings, right? And cravings are really, really important because they're thought to underlie the persistence relapse that we see in these individuals. And so what I'm particularly interested in is understanding how these memory circuits change with experience to develop these enduring preferences.
It was like moving into an alternative persona where all the things that have been critically important to me were blurred by the haze of alcohol and drinking. And I had lost my way, and denial is a big part of that. In other words, I didn't understand what was happening to my brain, but I was contributing to it in a profound way. And eventually, the whole question of volition and being able to control goes out the window because the brain gets rewired.
One of the things I did really on, specific to my fitness and going to the gym, I recognized that I would have easily slipped into like a fitness addiction the same way I slipped into drugs. I could easily have gone overboard with fitness where I was working out twice a day, I was running too much, I was beating myself into the ground and not eating enough. So instead of setting fitness goals, like I want to run a 5K or I want to be able to deadlift 135 pounds, I made the goal just showing up. All I had to do was show up at the gym. That was it. If I walked into the gym and decided I didn't want to be there and walked right back out, I still did it that day. I was a healthy person with healthy habits because I got up and I went to the gym. If I got to the gym and realized I was kind of tired and all I wanted to do was stretch or walk on the treadmill, awesome, I did it because I showed up and that was the only goal I set for myself. I actually still really think about a lot of habits that way now. I think about any new habit really that way. I make the goals so small and so achievable, and I make it about showing up, not about performance. And that way I give myself a lot of small wins.
So thinking about that as we come to a conclusion, in talking to you, Adam, this has been so insightful, but also I wonder, if there were lessons or things that you hope people take away from your story, what would that be?
First of all, self-medication is never the answer. I thought it was for a very long time. It's just not the answer. Also, these things are a progression. I wish I got the right psychiatric help. I wish I got the right, professional help, and I didn't. And so I think people looking at this, there are early signs with addiction, and I feel like if you do have those early signs, you definitely need to get professional help because it can spiral out of control, and I'm proof of that.
I do owe Suboxone a lot. I owe Suboxone so much, but that shouldn't feel like a thing that takes courage to say. I'm aware of the stigma. I'm aware of the finger pointing from the groups at NA and AA. I get it. I'm here to say, isn't the goal to keep people alive? I think so, and that's why I'm telling my story. Suboxone helped me. If it's not for you, then it's not for you, but it is a pathway to staying alive and to putting your life back together. I'm living proof. I'm on Suboxone to this day. I might be on it for the rest of my life. I mean, I'm on a tiny dose, but I can't imagine a world that I would do drugs again. That's hard for me to imagine after all this time, but I mean, I'm still on this small maintenance dose and I'm fine with it. In fact, when it came time that I said, I think I'm ready to get off this, trust me, I've scared the people that I love enough. They said, why? I think it's going pretty good. If it's not broke, why fix it? Because they're terrified, because I put them through hell. And I say, you know what? You're right. Everything's going really good in my life.